Good evening. Today we live in a world where we could say there's a homeless man sitting on the side of the street begging for money, and say you're walking down the street and you toss him a few cents, but you don't know what he looks like or what is going on because you're on your technological device such as your smartphone. Or we could also say social media is a bad thing for this generation because we spend way too much time on it not knowing what's going on in the outside world because we're just scrolling through Instagram, Twitter, or let's say Snapchat. Also, the youth of this generation, they have so many technologies they can play with, such as smartphones, MacBooks, iPads, or even gaming devices such as like a PS4 or an Xbox, and they spend hours upon hours in their rooms with the curtains closed just playing on it, not paying attention to what's happening around them. So today we are basically prisoners of our own technology, which is not a good thing. My name is Jared Perez, and I'll be talking about the consequences of Generation Y being phone addicts and depending on their technology. Now, notice I said Generation Y. Some of you might not know what Generation Y is applied to. And Tim Elmore, he's a founder of Growing Leaders, which is a nonprofit organizational to develop leaders. And he defines Generation Y as children of the late baby boomers and the early Gen Xers, born between 1984 and 2002. And I could say for myself, I am part of Generation Y. And in his book, Generation IY, Our Last Chance to Save the Future, which he wrote in 2010, there's a quote from it that kind of spoke to me, and it was, Generation IY, they are also the first generation that doesn't need leaders to get information. They have electronic access to every piece of data you can imagine. Now, some of you might think that's a good thing, but in my opinion, that's not a good thing because we are just addicted to our phones and we pay no attention to what's going on in the outside world just because we're on our phone. Like, we don't have to ask anyone important. We just have to search it up on Google and it's right there for us within seconds of our fingertips. Now, going from that, Mark Hyde, he is an experienced health reporter and a researcher, and also a big contributor to Time magazines and everyday health blogs. And he conducted research, and he found that Nina Langton, she was a normal high school student. She played sports, and she fit in with the popular group, you could say, in high school. And you'd think there's nothing wrong with her. But when he did this research, he found out that she attempted to commit suicide just because she said in this article that I was spending a lot of time stalking models on Instagram. I worried a lot about how I looked. And she would stay up late in her bedroom, stay up late at night in her bedroom, just on social media, just creeping through beauty models, and she would just compare herself to them. And for that, that's not a good thing because of social media, because it destroys the lives of the youth just like that. They're up late at night when they should be in bed, but they're on social media, and it just affects the mental healthness of the youth. Now, going from that, Corey C. Miller, she is the head of the Department of Leadership, and she has a PhD at Wright State University, and she conducted an experiment with her students, and her experiment consisted of, like, if students got on their phone during class, like, what was the purpose of them getting on their phone? And she found that 51% of her students in her class that got on their phone during class was because of texting, Snapchatting, going through Twitter or Instagram, something useless. And the other 49% of her class, of the students, they use their technology for class-related topics, such as to search up the definition of something in class or answer a question they didn't know. And that 49% of the kids that used it for class purpose only, they received a way better grade than the kids that got on it for social media or to text someone back. And that just affects the way we learn and everything, the way technology and social media. It's not we can use it for the good, but we can also use it for the bad. And those 51% of the kids that used it for the bad compared to the 49% that used it for the good to search up for class-related topics. And Sayed Salman, he has a PhD of psychology and psychiatry, and he is a professor at Tehran, which is located in Iran. And he conducted a research that if students have a cell phone addiction or not, and the experiment consisted of them answering a bunch of surveys and a bunch of questionnaires about phone addiction, like why they use it, or how long do they use it, what's their screen time on their technology that they're on it for. And he found in his article that he said, results revealed significant differences between cell phone addicts and non-cell phone addicts. Questionnaires indicated that cell phone addicts are addicted based off their personal identity. And I italicize personal identity because that is defined as a concept that we develop about ourselves throughout our life, and it just changes throughout the course of our life. So, our personal identity is based off how we use technology, and that could be good or bad. Just like how Seelman from Wright State conducted the research about the 49% of kids that use it for the good, the 51% that use it for the bad. Technology is a big part of our lives, and a lot of kids are starting to use it more for the bad rather than the good, like such as video games, texting in class, mental health, creeping through beauty models on Instagram late at night when you should be asleep. And to round it all up, the consequence of technology is, like I said in the introduction of this presentation, we are becoming our own prisoners of our own technology. They're taking over our lives, and we have little to no control over it just because technology is so addicting. They're affecting our mental health, our education, and just basically our state of mind, and we have no control over it, which isn't good, and we need to fix it now before the next generation is becoming way worse with technology at the flow of speed, how it's getting created and more up to date with today's world. And that's my presentation. Here's my works cited. Thank you.